What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Scythe, and we are back again with some whoopsie daisy MapleStory 2, and today we're going to be covering the biggest news that this game has ever had. Seriously, you guys already saw it, you know the title. Today we're going to be talking about the developers' recent blog post that they just put out yesterday, talking about how they are going to end up getting rid of Fairfight. Okay, that's already a really big deal, and we'll go into more detail. It's not removing it from the game completely, but it's removing it from the biggest aspects of the game. And then there's also going to be Trader Ribbons, which is going to offer tradable gear. This alone already shows that the devs finally ended up like acknowledging all of the complaints that the player base is actually having. And it's just so awesome that they're going to end up actually doing something about this, because seriously, this is really game changing, guys. It's going to end up making the game a lot more exciting, a lot more accessible for people, because you're going to be able to trade for legendary gear, and essentially because Fairfight's going to be removed from a lot of dungeons, you're going to be able to quite literally solo dungeons, because you'll be strong enough to do so now, and that means more grinding yourself instead of struggling with trying to find proper groups and people to end up doing all this stuff. I could finally grind for Balrog wings because I'll just annihilate the Balrog boss by doing it myself. You know what I mean? So absolutely awesome. So they say, below are the parts of the game we intend to change in the March update. The tentative release date for this is February 28th, based on the feedback we have received so far. So at this point, we'd like to ask any feedback you provide takes into account these changes from the future, from now on into the future. So Fairfight and Traders Ribbons. They also have another update that they've kind of mentioned in their roadmap of updates. March 28th update, they're hoping to end up fixing the Meso sync reduction, so hopefully they're going to end up making it so that all of the Meso syncs in game for trading and what have you is not going to end up being as bad, which is always a very big thing. The Meso market as well, gemstone resource gathering, and epic pets apparently are going to end up going through a big change as well. We don't know about that yet, exactly what they're doing. And then their April update, they're hoping to end up having RNG and progression speed improvements. So that's going to be enchanting, gemstone upgrades, accessory socket opening, and a lot more. So it's really cool to see that they're actually going to start focusing on you know, making the content that's already in the game better, because that's one of the big problems with the game, is they just kept trying to pump out these new updates, and it ended up kind of killing the game because so many people ended up already getting to the end game content and experiencing the end game and didn't generally like it. Even myself, I've been very critical in my more recent videos talking about how I love MapleStory 2, but there's been a lot of things in regards to Fairfight and just the end game that I just don't really like and kind of unsubscribed from, because I don't really care about the raids. I don't really find them to be that fun. But anyways, so Fairfight is going to end up changing quite a bit. They're going to remove Fairfight from adventure dungeons, both normal and hard. That apparently is going to be in the March update. Even though they keep calling it the March update, the tentative release date is going to be February 28th. So I guess it's supposed to be the update that hits for March, so we can end up experiencing it then. They also said that the Dungeon Delight event for hard adventure dungeons will stay in the game until March 28th, meaning that we should end up having Fairfight removed from hard and normal dungeons while still being able to go through dungeons. As of right now, there's an event going on where we're getting double the loot. I think that's what is actually going on, or something like that is actually happening. So it's really awesome that they're just going to keep that in for us. They also mentioned that another common request regarding Fairfight was it be removed from world bosses, which I personally don't agree with. While we see the frustration with world bosses taking a long time to defeat, completely removing Fairfight from world bosses could lead to exceptionally geared players defeating the bosses nearly instantly. Yes, this would rob lower level players the chance of actually participating in hunting world bosses in general. And so to address this, they're going to keep Fairfight on world bosses, but they're going to reduce their health by 60%. So you should actually start seeing people farming world bosses again, which is great, because as of right now, I've been farming world bosses today to get some of my dailies out of the way. And it's like, there's maybe under 10 players, including myself, fighting world bosses now. It's gotten pretty bad, dude. So then the other thing too is they mention about the Fortress Rumbles. So Fortress Rumbles, basically the way that you get legendary gear is you either do normal or hard raids which require a lot more people and a lot more stats, or you can do normal raids to end up getting fragments, or you can solo Fortress Rumbles, where you need to end up going to the Sky Fortress to end up getting enough reputation in order to end up unlocking these different fortress dungeons. And they're extremely difficult depending on the class that you're going to be playing as. And honestly speaking, I feel that they need a nerf, just because generally they're a little bit too difficult for a casual player such as myself. Maybe hardcore players. You know, you see people doing these videos of soloing these bosses, and it's, you know, it's a challenge unto itself that in all honesty is harder than doing raids, which to me isn't fair, considering that when you complete a Fortress Rumble, you get a fragment of a legendary item that you can then combine over a couple weeks in order to actually craft one legendary item, which just isn't really worth the time investment to it. But they say that one last concern of the Fairfight is Fortress Rumble. Fortress Rumble are soloable dungeons with a one-time weekly clear requirement that we believe are appropriately balanced to challenge you without becoming a chore, even though I strongly would say that the opinion of the majority of players is that they are a chore. You know, nobody likes actually doing them outside of maybe the end game players. So they're going to keep Fairfight applied in Fortress Rumbles as is, which kind of sucks. So to summarize, again, they say that Fairfight is being removed from hard and normal dungeons. World bosses are getting 60% of their health reduced, but it's going to keep Fairfight, and Fortress Rumbles are going to keep Fairfight as well. Now, before we get talking about the Trader's Ribbons, I wanted to talk about how this is going to affect the game in a much more positive way than you could possibly think. Because with them removing Fairfight from all of these dungeons, as I mentioned earlier in the video, it means that we can actually start getting strong enough to farm these dungeons ourselves. So we can actually just farm through these dungeons to end up getting the rare items that we want, without having to rely on having a super powerful group in order to end up getting through it, just because of Fairfight and being involved with it, right? So you could farm for Kandura's Pendant if you're strong enough, because you're just going to be annihilating the bosses. And I mean, them removing Fairfight also means that we should end up taking a lot less damage from the enemies as well, because Fairfight ended up reducing our damage, but also ends up making the bosses and stuff kind of hurt us a lot more. It quite literally ended up making the game balanced so that an end game player couldn't mop the floor with a dungeon and carry their friends, which means now you can actually carry your ults as well. Or not your ults, but carry your friends, have your friends carry you on your ults and stuff like that. So it's generally going to end up opening a lot more possibilities for people to access this game. Because even as far as I'm concerned, you know, it's like I would love to do dungeons with you guys, but you know, as far as like doing dungeons, I never really I kind of stopped doing them because of the fact that I would have to get a decent enough group in order to be able to do these dungeons efficiently. And now that I'm able to actually just do it myself, which granted, you're still going to be able to do a lot better if you have a strong group for sure, but it means that when I'm streaming MapleStory, I could just be doing dungeons with you guys watching at home, because I could actually carry you guys, and there's no reason not to do that. There's no reason for me to actually go through the dungeon solo, which I just personally think is absolutely awesome, because I do like the dungeon grinding and stuff like that, but I found it to be less and less accessible as you get to the end game, because it's all about being as efficient as possible, because everything about the dungeons is RNG based. So now we're going to be talking about Trader's Ribbons, and these are going to be insane. So Trader's Ribbons actually was an in-game cash shop item, and still is in both the Korean version and Chinese version of MapleStory. This is one of the biggest complaints that I and so many other people have about the global version of MapleStory, is that the game itself is very much like everything about this version of the game is free to play, but unfortunately the game isn't really balanced towards free to play. And you know, it's balanced towards cash shop. And they've removed all of the cash shop items from the global version of the game, which is awesome, but you start seeing these ramifications becoming more and more prevalent in the late game, because normally Korean players and Chinese players alike would be able to just buy these items out of the cash shop to end up giving them distinct advantages and not have them have to grind for weeks to months on end through time-gated RNG content. As opposed to us, we have no option but to grind through time-gated RNG random content just because we don't have those cash shop equivalents. Now, the Trader's Ribbon quite literally is still a cash shop item for the other versions of the game, but for us on the global server, the devs are keeping to their integrity of keeping this as a free-to-play approachable game and not having any pay-to-win aspect to it, because we are going to be able to grind these Trader's Ribbons. We're going to be able to get a certain amount of them. The current locations where you can end up earning these Trader Ribbons will be as follows. you're going to be able to get a weekly rank rewards for the following Chaos Raids: Shadow Altar, Moonlight Fortress, Clock Tower, and the Infernog. They will also be adding the following amount of Traders Ribbons for each weekly rank reward for the above Chaos Chest Raids. So if you get rank A, you're going to get 14 level 50 Traders Ribbons. So I guess the Traders Ribbons are going to end up being different in their levels, just because of some of the items are going to end up having, you know, later on in the game, we're going to have certain items require you to have a higher level in order to end up using them. But Fortress Rumbles, so you're going to be able to get a weekly rank reward for all the Fortress Rumbles. In order to do it, you have to, we will be adding the following amount of the Traders Ribbons for each weekly rank reward for all of the Rumbles. Rank A is going to be 8 level 50 Trader Ribbons. So I guess you have to get rank A in the Fortress Rumbles, which means that I just can't even grind them. That kind of sucks. And then the amount of Trader Ribbons you need to enable trading for level 50 epic or legendary gear differs per grade and per gear type. Yes, per grade. So that means that you could essentially grind your gear up to plus 15 and then you could trade it with players. That's crazy. That is game changing. Now, hopefully they end up fixing the Meso currency, because the Meso bots are going to have a field day on this one. And the in-game economy is just going to be absolutely unapproachable and broken so long as people keep taking advantage of those Meso bots and Meso bot buyers in general, because you know that at first anyways, legendary gear is going to be extremely expensive, let alone people actually grinding up their legendary gear. And now people that have millions and millions of Meso are going to be able to buy legendary gear so that they can level up their legendary gear to plus 15 and then potentially resell it for a higher value. And there's nothing that players like myself and anybody else that's at the current point in the game, there's nothing we're going to be able to do about it, because these people are at the end game already. They can take advantage of these things because they already have pretty much infinite Meso, because they sell raid runs to Meso bot buyers and stuff like that. And it's just, the in-game economy is still going to end up being a big problem with this. However, it does mean that legendary gear is going to be tradable, and this is a very, very big deal, because for somebody like myself that just completely unsubscribes from the raids, it means that I'm going to be able to actually do it. Like I'll be able to actually get my hands on the legendary items. Sorry guys, I saw that this boss ended up spawning, so I better go and get him out of the way here while I'm still talking about this. So absolutely awesome. Now here's the thing is the gear itself at base level, they show that epic two-handed weapons are gonna be 48 Traders Ribbons, and then an epic one-handed is going to be 24 Traders Ribbons, while the legendary trading is going to be two-handed weapons at 96 Traders Ribbons. And then one-handed is going to be 48 Traders Ribbons. They also ended up mentioning the tops, bottoms, gloves, and armor, and accessories and stuff like that, and how many Traders Ribbons it's going to end up essentially costing. So it says that players who are able to achieve all rank A rewards from Chaos Raids and Fortress Rumbles can get up to a total of 96 Traders Ribbons each week. So that's why, like I said, it's going to be very, very expensive early on, because it means that only the people that can end up getting rank A in Fortress Rumbles and Raids are going to be able to sell one two-handed legendary weapon per week, and that's pretty much it, outside of, you know, the armor and everything like that. So eventually it's going to end up being a lot cheaper, but as of when this update ends up going live, you're probably going to end up seeing the prices be extremely high value. I honestly don't even know how many people have the legendary weapons, but again, this means that a lot more options are going to be open to players, because it means that somebody like myself, I'll be able to hopefully just grind hard dungeons to end up getting some rare drops, so that I can save up, buy legendary gear, and then I can just be strong enough to actually end up going through the raids myself, and then just get more legendary gear, and then potentially end up actually trading it with other players. So it should end up fixing a lot of the issues with the game, and I'm really, really excited about it. And that pretty much does it. There is a lot more that we could go into with detail in regards to the blog post, but I'll put the link in the description to it if you guys want to end up reading through it. Otherwise, I gotta go and get myself some of these world bosses out of the way. Just reading about this alone got me so hyped for MapleStory, I ended up deciding just to hop on, and I've been getting all my quests out of the way. And I mean, even though I'm not really going to be playing it that much over the course of these next following weeks, because Anthem's coming out and everything like that. But when this update hits, ooh, baby, I'm so super duper excited, because I think that this is something that has desperately been needed in MapleStory and makes the game a lot more approachable, not only for somebody like myself, but for the majority of players now are going to be able to actually have access to that end game content, because, you know, otherwise you got to pretty much have like a good guild in order to end up actually doing this stuff consistently. But either way, thanks for watching, everybody. I wanted to get this video out to you as soon as possible, and I mean, what can I say? That's just absolutely awesome to see a dev team actually respond to the community about something like this, because up to this point, the devs never really acknowledged or even talked about Fairfight, despite the fact that everyone in the community was complaining about it. Now, recently they ended up putting out a survey, and that's where everybody was just saying remove Fairfight. We were wondering whether they were going to end up nerfing Fairfight or something, but the fact that they're just outright going to remove it from the dungeons in the game is a huge success in my mind for this game, and I'm really, really excited about it. Thanks for watching, though, everybody. Very much appreciated. Don't forget to like, sub, hit that notification bell. There's also going to be a link in the description, again, to this blog post, so you can check it out for yourselves. But if you want to go the extra mile of supporting me, you can always sponsor my YouTube channel. Check links in the description from my merch store, as well as Gawkbox, which is where you can donate to me for absolutely free. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sayonara, and stay epic.